guys, it's Siu and welcome back to another episode of True Crime Tuesdays with Siu. So today we're going to be talking about the case of the 11-year-old serial killer Mary Bell. Now this case is going to get pretty disturbing and graphic, so I'm just letting you guys know what you're getting into, and I think we should just get on with the video. Now Mary Bell was born on May 26, 1957 in England, and she was born to Betty and Billy Bell, who was not a biological father. Now Betty was a sex worker while Billy Bell was a petty criminal. The three of them resided on White House Road in Newcastle. White House Road had a high rate of unemployment, and there was also a strong police presence because there were a lot of domestic violence issues, there was a lot of drug activity, and there was also a lot of sex workers in this area. Billy Bell, who was Mary's father, was a very loving father, and he would take really good care of Mary because he loved her very much. And this was a very sharp contrast to how her mother would actually take care of Mary. Mary's mother had her when she was around 17 years old, so I'm under the impression that I don't think she really wanted a child at that point, and I don't think she wanted a child at all because there have been so many instances where she wanted to hurt Mary, and she would actually consistently beat Mary up in her childhood, and she would actually sell Mary to her clients and obviously earn money out of her. So Mary was sexually abused at a very young age. Also, a lot of Betty's relatives believe that there had been many incidents where Betty tried to get rid of Mary and termed it as an accident. For example, there were two incidents where one, Mary accidentally fell out of the window, and second time was when Mary accidentally swallowed a dangerous amount of sleeping pills. Obviously Mary got out of it alive, and so you can tell that Mary had a very traumatic childhood, and no child should actually ever have this kind of childhood. So Mary's best friend called Norma Bell, who was I think 2 years older than her, lived in the same neighborhood, and the neighborhood that these two were living in normalized crime and violence. So these two always knew that they were missing something that the other kids in school were getting, and so they always had this anger inside them, and these two would always remove this anger out in the playground or maybe sometimes even on the other children. Norma was known to be someone who was a bully, and Mary and Norma had so much anger inside them, and they bonded on the hatred and the anger that they had, and these two made a very dangerous team. On May 25th, 1968, the day before Mary turned 11 years old, she had taken a 4-year-old boy, Martin Brown, to an abandoned house and she strangled him. She then went to get her best friend Norma Bell to come and look at the body, but she realized that she had been beaten there by two local boys, and obviously the police had been called. When the police investigated the body, they saw that there was just a little bit of saliva and blood coming out of his mouth, but apart from that, there weren't really any signs of foul play or any other injuries, which indicated that this could have been a homicide. So they just ruled his death an accident, and they shut the case after that. A couple of days later, on the day of Martin's funeral, Mary went to Martin's house and she rang the doorbell, and Martin's mother opened the door and she asked to see Martin. And Martin's mom was, she gently told her that, listen, Mary, Martin's dead, he passed away. And Mary was like, yeah, I know he passed away, but I just want to see his dead body in the coffin. And then obviously Mary's mom slammed the door on her face. And obviously after this, Martin's family was a little suspicious of Mary, what the fuck just happened. Shortly after this incident happened, Mary and Norma broke into a nursery and they vandalized it with notes claiming that both of them had murdered Martin Brown and they took responsibility for the murder of Martin Brown, and they also promised to kill again in some of the notes, and there were also a couple of other notes that were found over there. When the police came and they saw the nursery, they didn't really look into it too much. They just thought it was some stupid prank and they didn't think too much about it, and they just let it be. Meanwhile, Mary and Norma were also going to school. Mary was also going and bragging to her friends, saying that, oh, I'm the one who killed Martin Brown. But her friends didn't really believe anything because Mary had that sort of a reputation where she was a show-off and she was also a liar. So her friends didn't really believe anything she was saying, obviously, until Mary went ahead and killed someone else. On July 31st, 1968, 2 months after Mary's first murder, Mary and Norma killed 3-year-old Brian by strangulation, and Mary also mutilated him with scissors. She sliced his thighs and she also butchered his penis. When Brian's sister went out to look for Brian, because obviously he was was nowhere to be found, Mary and Norma also offered to help, and eventually a lot of people from the neighborhood also came out to search for Brian, and also the police got involved in a little bit and they found Brian's body. Also, when the police found Brian's body, it was very clear that this was a homicide and it wasn't an accident. That's why they decided to question the local kids in the neighborhood. After they received Brian's autopsy, the police also came to know a very interesting detail was the fact that there was an M which was carved onto Brian's body. Also, the way that Brian had been attacked was in a very playful and a careful, sort of gentle way, which is what made the police believe that the killer could have been a child. The police ended up questioning a lot of the children from the neighborhood, and when they were questioning Mary and Norma, they really didn't put in enough effort to hide their interest in the case, because Mary was very evasive when she was being questioned by the police, especially when the police asked her or told her that we've seen you with Brian on the day that he was murdered. And on the other hand, Norma was very excited when she was getting questioned. There was a detective who was present on the day that Brian's body was found and also on the day that Martin's body was found. So he was following both of the cases. And there was something interesting that he witnessed on the day of Brian's funeral. He saw Mary outside waiting, and the minute she saw Brian's coffin, she was laughing as if she was happy to see his body, and she was also rubbing her hands together in a very evil way, and that's when he knew that he had to get Mary into questioning again, because he obviously realized that she definitely had something to do with his death. After this particular incident, the police obviously decided to get Norma and Mary in for questioning once again. When the police was questioning Mary I think got the idea that the police were definitely closing in onto what actually happened, and so she made up this fake story where she was like, oh, I saw an 8-year-old boy who was actually with Brian the day of the murder, and he also had a pair of broken scissors in his hand. And that was Mary's biggest mistake, because the fact that the scissors were used in this case was not actually disclosed to anybody, or disclosed to the press or the public, which is why they realized that the only person who would know of the scissors was Mary, and so they realized that she was the actual murderer, and things just went downhill from there. After this discovery, Norma also told the police everything she knew, and she went and she told them the truth, that she was there when Brian was murdered and she was with Mary, but she said that she didn't really have anything to do with the murder as such, but she was there and she was present when it happened. And Mary also said that yeah, she was there at the time of the murder, but she decided to blame everything on Norma, which obviously the police did not believe. So eventually the police linked Martin's murder to Brian's murder as well, and then they ended up charging these two girls with the murders of these two boys. Now comes the trial of Marybelle and Norma. So the prosecutors told the court that Mary was killing these people only for the pleasure that she got out of it and for the excitement of killing someone, and the British press also referred to Mary as the evil born. The jury believed that the murders that were committed were done by Mary itself, and therefore they gave her a guilty verdict of manslaughter and not murder, because they thought that Mary could not be completely responsible for her actions. Norma Bell was regarded an unwilling accomplice, basically just someone who fell under a very bad influence, and therefore she was acquitted. The jury also further concluded that Marybelle was someone who was very dangerous to be around, and she obviously couldn't be around the children anymore, so therefore she was imprisoned at the Majesty's pleasure, which is a British legal term which implies an indeterminate sentence, which basically means that the authorities will let Marybelle out when they think it's okay for her to be let out. So her sentence wasn't really declared and decided when she was being sent to prison. In 1980, when Marybelle was 23 years old, she was released from prison after serving 12 years in prison, and she was given a new name and an identity which was protected by the British government in order for her to live a normal life and to be away from all the tabloids and the newspapers. Even after being given a new identity, she was still struggling. She would have to move homes because newspapers and tabloids would somehow always end up finding her. In 1984, she gave birth to a daughter on her own birthday actually, which was on 26th May. Her daughter didn't actually know about any of her crimes and her murders till she was 14 years old, when the paparazzi and the newspapers ended up finding where Mary lived at that time, and they all came and crowded around her house. So Mary's family actually had to hide under bed sheets and escape from there, so the newspapers and the tabloids couldn't get pictures of them, obviously for their own safety. Also, sort of like a fun fact is that whenever there are certain convicts whose identities are hidden by the government, they are unofficially known as Marybelle orders. Anyway, Marybelle eventually also became a grandmother, and Marybelle's identity is still being protected today by the British government as we speak right now, and she's still out there living her life and chilling. And a lot of people think that that's wrong. A lot of people feel like she shouldn't be protected by the government like this, and people think that she should have been in jail for the rest of her life. So anyway, this is it for today's video. Let me know what you thought about this case in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.